episode of Ring Talk. Welcome back. Had a little break last week, but hey, everybody needs a break now and then. It's the summer. It's busy. As you can tell, it is just me today. Kaysen could not be here for this episode, so I didn't want to leave you guys out without getting... I didn't want to go like 2 weeks without an episode, so I figured I'd just do one on my own, and especially after Money in the Bank, we got to do some recapping. So I'm doing this in a room where I live. You'd think it was a Kansas City Chiefs little podcast. You got the jerseys there, got the hat here. Y'all know I'm a big Chiefs fan. But let's get into it. So, Money in the Bank this past Saturday. A lot of mixed reactions with the event, I'd say. First off, the men's Money in the Bank match. Drew McIntyre picks up the W. Lots of action in this match. I think a lot of people were expecting Jey Uso to pick up the W, myself included. He was definitely going to be my pick for the match. Carmelo Hayes was a highlight of this match. I mean, that guy feels like he can do just anything. I mean, he's jumping off ladders, jumping off ropes, doing all kinds of stuff. We end up getting we have Jey Uso and LA Knight, and they're going at it, doing the yeet versus the yeah, which was a cool moment in the match. I think people were, it helped get the crowd kind of involved in the match a bit, which was pretty cool. Andrade hit Hayes with a powerbomb basically through a ladder. Gable was dangling from the briefcase, comes down, smashes down on the mat, and then Jey Uso hits him with a spear. And then Jey Uso's about to win the match. Jey Uso's at the top of the ladder. He's got his hands on the briefcase. Here comes in Drew McIntyre. Chucks the ladder, basically like a spear, at Jey Uso. Knocks him off the ladder. Drew McIntyre runs up, gets the briefcase, wins the match. Drew McIntyre is Mr. Money in the Bank. And according to what he had promised earlier, he was going to cash in that night during the World Heavyweight Championship match. Next match of the night, Sami Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, this match showcased both of these men very well. Sami Zayn picks up the win, hits a haluva kick on Braun Breaker, retains the title. My issue with this is because Braun Breaker is clearly the next big thing, in WWE. He's going to be the next unstoppable force, like the next Brock Lesnar, I would say. And I would rather it have not been a clean win, to be honest. Sami Zayn, I don't mind Sami Zayn winning, and we'll get later on. I still think we're going to get a rematch here before too long, maybe at SummerSlam. I just think it hurts Braun Breaker every time he loses clean. That's just my opinion, obviously. Let me know what you guys think. Seth Rollins versus Damian Priest for the World Heavyweight Championship. Both these men, both these men going at it back and forth. The match was honestly solid. It wasn't a bad match by any means. It just, towards the end, is where it got a little clunky, So, Seth Rollins, he hit the Falcon Arrow on him, goes for the pin, and I don't know what the issue was, but something wasn't timed right, somebody didn't do something right, but Damian Priest doesn't kick out. It's clear as day he doesn't kick out, but the ref stops at 2 and says it's 2. Everybody's confused, the crowd starts to boo, and it really hurt the match. But they do deserve the credit that they deserve. Both Seth Rollins and Damian Priest put on a banger match. I don't know if it was just because Drew McIntyre's music hits shortly thereafter, the awkward non-3 count, and he comes out and cashes in Money in the Bank. I don't know if... I'm guessing they were supposed to hit his music a little before, but apparently the timing was off or something wasn't working or they weren't ready. So it really caused an awkward scene. But Drew McIntyre cashes in, and then it becomes a triple threat match. So it was kind of fun to see Drew McIntyre cash in on Damian Priest for one thing, because obviously Priest cashed in on McIntyre, but also it cashed in mid-match, turning into a triple threat match, which had only happened one other time in WWE history, which was, of course, the heist of the century, Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank at WrestleMania on Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. So it was very poetic, I'd say. But Drew McIntyre looking like he's about to become, once again, world champion. You guys know how I'm feeling about him these days. But here comes CM Punk. Comes in there like a punk and costs Drew McIntyre again the world title. Sticks his nose where it doesn't belong, all right? McIntyre just told him to back off, and CM Punk won't back off. But anyways, Damian Priest retains the title. And is Drew McIntyre upset? Yeah, but so is Seth freaking Rollins. Seth Rollins starts yelling at CM Punk, so it's looking like renewing their rivalry a bit, which we're all going to be, I can't wait for. So Damian Priest leaves as world champion. I guess it's now looking like it's going to be Damian Priest versus Gunther at SummerSlam for the World Heavyweight Championship. Then let's skip over to the post-show. Drew McIntyre was irate. He storms into the post-show screaming and yelling and just angry. He's pushing refs over. They're calling for security. Adam Pearce gets involved and gets an elbow from Drew McIntyre straight to the dome. He goes down, and then you know that it was bad then. And then Wade Barrett has to get involved because Adam Pearce is he's going to throw a punch at Drew McIntyre. I don't know if it would have ended well for Mr. Pearce. But Wade Barrett gets involved, who's a good friend of Drew McIntyre, is able to calm him down and get him to leave. It is eventually revealed that they suspended Drew McIntyre, which we will get into a little bit later when we start talking about Monday Night Raw. But Damian Priest did retain the World Heavyweight Championship. Then we get the women's Money in the Bank, which was probably the best match of the night, in my opinion. Tiffany Stratton, Tiffy time, is Miss Money in the Bank. So this match was full of a lot of innovative moves. I mean, every woman in this match did their part and executed very well, I would say. Stratton, I think, was a lot of people's picks to win this match. Definitely was my pick. But the underdog who I think behind everything I was kind of hoping would win, Chelsea Green. You guys know how I love Chelsea Green. She is awesome. She's hilarious. She's so good at her job. And and the crowd was getting behind her, which I thought was so cool. The crowd was all for Chelsea Green winning Money in the Bank, but Tiffany Stratton pushes her off the ladder through the tables on the outside of the ring. It was a cool finish. I thought it was all played very well. Tiffany Stratton, Miss Money in the Bank. What can I say? Main event time. The Bloodline against Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens. The Bloodline was looking dominant, and I think they end up picking up the victory. Bloodline defeats Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and I think that was the right decision if they're going with Cody versus Solo at SummerSlam, because they got to make them look intimidating. They got to make them look like a real threat, because everybody's just been busting their chops about them being, the great value version of the Bloodline. They're the knockoff. They're the off-brand, the bootleg version, you might say. But this match, they all looked good until things kind of obviously got messy there at the end. Now, don't get me wrong, Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton also looking dope as ever. Dope as heck. They're the best in the business right now. They end up putting Owens smashes Fatu through the announce table. And then So that it puts him out of the match for a bit. And then it comes to... So the ref ends up getting knocked out. Ref's out of play at this point. And then it's... What is it? I have my notes. Tonga Loa comes in and messes up the low blow. Doesn't really hit him at first. And then he has to scoot up and hit him again. And it's all awkward. And then eventually Solo will hit the Samoan spike on Cody Rhodes and pins him. Excuse me. Pins Cody Rhodes, and Solo Sikoa, then you realize, just pin the WWE champion. So obviously you got to give him a title shot. He just pinned the champ, which is looking like that's what it's going to be at SummerSlam. The last thing I want to mention about Money in the Bank, I kind of saved it for last because it was an emotional thing to watch, honestly, for me. John Cena announces his retirement. 2025 will be his last year in the jorts. He's going to do a full year. He said something about he's going to try and aim for 30 to 40 dates. He's going to go from January to December. He's going the entire year. So when he says Royal Rumble will be his last, Elimination Chamber will be his last, and WrestleMania will be his last. Now, WrestleMania is not going to be his last match. He will wrestle throughout the year. And he says, from what I've heard, is after his last match, he's going to hang the jorts up officially. And I guess the only time we're ever going to see him in the WWE is in a suit, which would be very weird, honestly, for me to see. But it was a very emotional speech. You could tell he was trying not to get too emotional when he was talking. I started watching wrestling in 2010, October of 2010. If you gave me enough time, I bet I could find the exact episode, the exact date that I started watching wrestling. Obviously, John Cena was the guy. John Cena was the guy. For a little kid, your guy was John Cena. He was your hero. He was your Superman. Obviously, I didn't watch him throughout his entire career. I've gone back and watched a lot of his old stuff. His Thugonomics stuff. Obviously, he's just banger stuff. So good. I'm excited that I've been able to see him throughout his majority of his career. And I can't wait to go on this last year journey with John Cena. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be legendary. And it's going to be memorable. But that brings us to the end of Money in the Bank. Overall, I got to be honest, this may have been, throughout all the events this year so far, this may have been my least favorite. It's just, there was just a lot of clunky issues. And I know a lot of people had issues with Drew McIntyre winning the Money in the Bank, cashing in and losing. It felt like it was just a waste. And I can understand people's thoughts and opinions about that. I when I was watching at first, I was kind of like, man, it just felt like you were taking a spot from someone who could have really used it, like Jey Uso or LA Knight, or honestly, any one of those other guys could have used it. But at the same time, they were Drew McIntyre and CM Punk easily having the rivalry of the summer. Easily. And, you want to... And if Punk can get cleared, hopefully we're going to see McIntyre versus Punk at SummerSlam. And yeah, you could have had Punk cost Drew McIntyre the Money in the Bank contract during the ladder match. But don't you think it has such a bigger impact of him costing him the cash in rather than the actual match? Again, I can understand where people are coming from. And I there's a part of me that does kind of agree. But there's also part of me that if you look at it, of trying to build this rivalry, that they are putting all their eggs in this basket, and it's the best way they can do it is to honestly have them cost him the cash in, which was huge. So I think at the end of the day, I think it was the right decision. It was the right decision, in my opinion, at the end of the day. All right, but that is Money in the Bank. Let's move on to NXT Heatwave, which I believe was the event of the weekend. When you compare this to Money in the Bank, NXT Heatwave was awesome. First match of the night, I think, was during the Countdown show. You had Carmen Petrovic and Ariana Grace defeating JC Jane and Jasmine Nix. Carmen Petrovic and Ariana Grace were the hometown favorites. I think they were in Toronto, I believe. And hopefully I'm not getting that wrong. I can't remember. But I think it was Toronto, so they were hometown favorites, and they defeated the team of JC Jane and Jasmine Nix. All women looking good, as always. And it definitely seemed like this was going to be a one-off for this team, for Carmen Petrovic and Ariana Grace. As we see later on NXT that Tuesday, they end up going one-on-one. Obafemi versus Wesley for the North American Championship. I don't know who can stop Obafemi. I'll be completely honest. It's almost like a Gunther situation. Like, I just don't know who can be the one to beat him. Obafemi picking up the W over Wesley. Great match. Wesley is I think, a future main event star. I mean, he's so good, and he deserves all the credit in the world. I'd love to see him get put in the NXT Championship picture. But unfortunately, Obafemi picked up the W. Just an absolute beast. Next match, NXT North American Women's Champion Kalani Jordan defeated Sol Ruka to retain the title. Both these women insanely talented. I think they're both like gymnastics girls, I want to say. I know they recruit a lot of these like college gymnastics or people with gymnastic backgrounds for the WWE, especially with the women. And you can definitely tell with this match. I mean, it was fast-paced, high innovated. They were doing flips and all this stuff. I think Sol Ruka's finishers is one of the sickest finishers in NXT right now. I can't recall what it's called, the name of it, but basically it's like a front flip into a cutter, which is super dope. Unfortunately for Sol Ruka, Kalani Jordan said, not tonight. Maybe one day you'll be North American champion. Not tonight. Next match is the Tag Team Championships. We got Axiom and Nathan Frazer against Chase U. Chase U, unfortunately, again, not their night. They did not pick up the win. And Axiom and Nathan Frazer, which at first it was looking like we could be seeing the downfall of their team. But as of right now, that's not the case. Could be because they pick up the W. So, still your NXT Tag Team Champions, Axiom and Nathan Frazer. Women's Championship time, Roxanne Perez, who is easily the next big thing in women's wrestling in WWE. Roxanne Perez versus Sol Ruka, who's another up-and-coming women's superstar, who I believe will be NXT Women's Champion by the end of the year. But unfortunately for her, NXT Heatwave was not the night to do it. Roxanne Perez picking up the W and still NXT Women's Champion. Main event time and match of the night, match of the weekend in my opinion. Ethan Page versus Trick Williams versus Shawn Spears versus Javon Evans for the NXT Championship. Fatal 4-way. And boy was it action-packed. I mean, from start to finish, all these guys are insanely talented and deserve to be in the spot that they're in. The finish was crazy. So, basically, dropped my pen. They take out, so Javon Evans gets hit by, was it a trick shot that hit him? And then, Javon Evans is out. He's on the ground, on the mat. Shawn Spears gets taken outside, and then Trick Williams hits a. It wasn't a trick shot, but it was more just a jumping knee to the face. Falls on top of Javon Evans. Ethan Page falls on top of Javon Evans, and then I don't know what Shawn Spears is thinking. He grabs Trick Williams and pulls him almost out of the ring, and the ref counts the 3 count since pages on Evans covering him, and we have a new NXT champion, Ethan Page. In his second or third match in NXT, he's NXT champion. And boy, did that crowd not expect that. And boy, was this match 5 stars, in my opinion. This was a banger match. And I hope we see more matches like these, because this was a fun match. This was a fun event from start to finish, to be honest. I had fun watching this event. NXT Heatwave was a huge success, in my opinion. But that brings me to the end of Heatwave. So now we transition to Monday Night Raw, which did not disappoint. We were treated to a good episode, I'd say. CM Punk kicks off the show, and the crowd is loving CM Punk. CM Punk basically just saying that he was in the right for costing Drew McIntyre the world title. And Punk wants McIntyre. He doesn't want him suspended. He wants McIntyre. And we see later on backstage that he talked with Adam Pearce, and Adam Pearce agrees to have a meeting with Drew McIntyre next week, but he asked CM Punk to stay away. Is Punk going to stay away? I don't think so. I don't think you can keep these guys away from each other. Anyways, Punk is out in the opening of the show, and out comes Seth freaking Rollins, and he's not happy. He basically gets in CM Punk's face, and we are treated to a war of words between the two superstars, going back and forth. And Seth Rollins is not happy because CM Punk costing him that world title match meant that Seth Rollins could no longer challenge for the world title as long as Damian Priest is champion. Now we see later on that in a backstage, Seth Rollins and Damian Priest, they walk that back. Damian Priest says that after SummerSlam, if you want a title shot, you can have it. Seth Rollins likes that. But CM Punk and Seth Rollins going at each other verbally, I think is getting people excited. They know that they got to wait until after Punk and McIntyre. But Punk versus Rollins is going to hit just as well. First match of the night, we have Jey Uso versus Chad Gable. Jey Uso picking up the W. I'm curious to see where they take Jey Uso going into SummerSlam. I'm not sure. But the White Six seems to start tormenting Gable again. I'm not sure if we're going to work up to a SummerSlam match between Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable. But nevertheless, we see, I don't know if it's Sister Abigail or what, I forget what the name is, but Nikki Cross has another VHS tape she's going to give to the announce table. Gives to Michael Cole and Pat McAfee. And we'll get to the contents of that tape in a little bit. Second match of the night, we had Bronson Reed defeating Pete Dunne. And after the match, Bronson Reed was not done with Pete Dunne. However, out comes Sheamus. We get a small reunion of the Brawling Brutes between the two. And Sheamus saves Pete Dunne. However, Mr. Dunne was not quite happy with that. He didn't want Sheamus' help. Which I'm hoping we see some more interactions between the two going forward on Raw. I hope this is maybe part of a bigger storyline I'd like to see. Because I think we've seen the talent that Pete Dunne has, especially in NXT. He was just a beast. So I hope we see more of Pete Dunne get some bigger spots. Next we have another war of words between Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker. However, it doesn't last long because Braun Breaker immediately, once he gets his chance, he takes out Sami Zayn. He is out for blood. He wants a rematch. And he doesn't care how he gets it. He's going to, if it takes just beating on Sami, that's what he's going to do until Sami gives it to him. Ilya Dragunov comes out and makes a save. And we eventually get to see that match later on. We have Ilya Dragunov versus Braun Breaker later on in the night. I'll get to that in a bit. Judgment Day defeats Braun Strowman and Awesome Truth in a 6-man tag team match. they've been. I'm glad to finally see Braun Strowman not have him actually be going up against Judgment Day in this capacity, not just coming out for a save, which he was doing for 2 or 3 weeks. It's getting kind of repetitive. But they couldn't pick up the W because Judgment Day picks up the W, and it seems like things are starting to fall apart in the Judgment Day. Maybe Finn Balor feels like Damian Priest is getting too big of a head since becoming world champ. You heard what they've said. Damian Priest has said the Judgment Day needs him more than he needs the Judgment Day. I don't think that sat well with Mr. Balor. Uncle Howdy, we see his videotape, and basically he's revealing his family to us. Which, these videotapes are the highlights of these last few weeks I have very much enjoyed. And I was worried that we were only going to keep getting these videotapes because this is the third week in a row, third or fourth. But, however, we see backstage Chad Gable is worried, and he goes to Adam Pearce and he asks for help. And Adam Pearce basically says, let me take care of it. Adam Pearce goes to his office, opens the door, and there we see Bo Dallas, or whatever name he's going to go by. Right now we'll stick with Bo Dallas. Looking normal. He's not as Uncle Howdy, so it seems like it's a dual identity kind of deal, which I am all for, which could be done really, really well and really cool. I do want to point out, I think it was this episode we saw Chad Gable and what's the Creed brothers and Ivy Naya. We see there's an interview spot. And if you look back, you can see Chad Gable talking with the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, which people, I think, are really stoked to see that team up. Myself included. Next is... Ilya Dragunov versus Braun Breaker ends in disqualification after Braun Breaker basically chucks the announcer's chair at Ilya Dragunov. Sammy comes in for the save. However, Braun Breaker, it's almost like that's exactly what Braun Breaker wanted. He wanted Sammy to come out so he could show just how dominant and why he deserves another Intercontinental Championship shot. Since both men over the announce table, it was nuts. Braun Breaker is just insane. The best word to describe Braun Breaker is insane. Next match, we have a 6-women tag team match. Damage Control picking up the W over Lyra Valkyria, Katana Chance, and Kaden Carter. All women looking good. I think this may be one of the best women's divisions we've ever had. I very much enjoyed this past year of women's wrestling. After the match, Sonya Deville, Shayna Baszler, and Zoe Stark, which looks like a new women's faction in the WWE on the Raw brand, takes out basically all the women. I mean, they made a statement. Best thing you can say is they made a statement. I'm excited to see how that story carries on. Main event time, we have Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan versus Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega. Dominic Mysterio finally pins his father. Dirty Dom Mysterio and Liv Morgan pick up the W with little dirty tactics, but Dirty Dom's in the name. So what can you say? They pick up the W, and then Liv Morgan jumps on Dominic, falls down. Dominic's on top of Liv. It's not looking good. Earlier in the night, Dominic was told to cut ties with Liv Morgan. Damian Priest told him to cut ties with it. Didn't seem like that was going to happen because Dominic seemed like he was enjoying being a little on top. However, Damian Priest said that there was a surprise that he had in store. And that surprise was the return of Mommy Rhea Bloody Ripley. Rhea Ripley comes out, gets in Dominic's face. Liv Morgan takes off running. She's like, I don't want any part of that. And Dominic's like, you don't understand. It's not what it looks like. mommy's back, and she's not happy. And it's looking like we may get Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. Raw as a whole was pretty solid. I very much enjoyed it. I hope you guys did too, because I thought it was very good. I thought it was a solid episode from start to finish. I thought it flowed very well. All right, final show of the week to cover. I'm recording this on a Friday, so I won't be able again to cover SmackDown. You guys know I love SmackDown, and I don't do it intentionally. You know I love SmackDown. It's just the way things work. Promise we will get back to covering SmackDown next time. Next time we will cover SmackDown. I don't know which SmackDown it's going to be, but we'll see. NXT kicks off with Carmen Petrovic versus Ariana Grace, carrying off from NXT Heatwave. Basically, we're figuring out who's the superior woman between the two. Carmen Petrovic picks up the W. That answers the question. Next match, Heritage Cup. Tony D'Angelo defeats Lexis King, and honestly, a banger match in my opinion. I wish they would put... I'm kind of a fan of Lexis King. I'm a fan of both men, don't get me wrong. I love Tony D'Angelo and the family. But I'm also a big fan of Lexis King. I'm a big 80s fan, and I love the whole 80s rocker aesthetic, kind of. I think is cool. I enjoy that. I hope they put Lexis King in kind of bigger spots going forward. But in this case, Tony D'Angelo picking up the big fat W. Next match, Gallus defeats Tyreek Igwe and Tyson DuPont. Gallus looking like a dominant team. We saw the reunion between... also we saw Wes Lee come out and basically say it looked like he was going to quit. He was going to quit, and he didn't want. The crowd didn't want that. He's like, if I can't, because since he lost to Obafemi, he can no longer challenge for the NXT North American Championship as long as he is Femi is champion. So it's looking like he's about to quit, but out comes the Rascals from TNA. We saw Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel from TNA, and we see the reunion of MSK, and all three men kind of conduct a triple hug, three-way hug, and I'm pumped to see this. I love the incorporation of TNA. It makes NXT so fun and so unpredictable, and it was such a great idea, and it was smart. We also see Gallus. Basically, it looked like, I think it was Gallus that threatened the Rascals. So that could be the first rivalry 6-man tag match going that way. You know what I hear? I hear money. That's what I hear when I hear that. Anyways, next match we have Thea Hale knocking off Izzy Dame. We saw an interference between Tatum and Paxley, which I think kind of helped Thea Hale win the match. Thea Hale, I 100% believe, is the next big thing. I am all in on Thea Hale. I think she is a phenomenal talent. I think she's got the charisma, the skill to go far and go big in this business. OTM defeating the OC. OC doing a lot to help out these NXT talent, putting them over. You gotta give the OC the credit they deserve for the selflessness of it all. They are doing their job to help these younger talents and these younger teams climb the rankings and get to the spot that they once held in the tag team division. Sol Ruka defeated Fallon Henley via disqualification after JC Jane and Jasmine Nix attacked Sol Ruka. I don't know if it's a storyline of jealousy. They're a little jealous that Sol Ruka is like getting all this attention. I could definitely see JC Jane and even Jasmine Nix maybe going up to the main roster in the next year. Maybe when the draft comes back around next year. I know that's maybe people might think that's a bold statement, and Maybe it is, but I definitely I could see them seeing them go towards that in the next year. But Fallon Henley picked up the win. Unfortunately, it was because of disqualification, and I don't know if she really looked like a winner after everything was said and done. Another thing to mention is we see Brooks Jensen, who we thought had left the WWE. He was going to try and go make his ends meet on the independent circuit. But he had constantly throughout the weeks been getting involved in NXT events, going through the crowd. He'd even cost Trick Williams a match one time. And at one point he was arrested. He'd going through a lot of stuff. He needed help, and he asked for help, and he's getting it. So we had a meeting with Ava Raine, and Ava Raine looking like she's going to give him another chance, which everybody deserves a second chance. So this next week, these next couple of weeks are going to be very interesting when it comes to Brooks Jensen. All right, so that brings me to, the main event of NXT. Tuesday night NXT, we have a tag team match. We have Ethan Page versus Shawn Spears versus Trick Williams and what's supposed to be Javon Evans, who had got taken out earlier in the night. So now we need a mystery partner. Because at the beginning of the night opened with Ethan Page coming out and celebrating his NXT title win. And then everyone else kept coming out and asking, hey, I want a shot. And this match was a lot about determining who deserves a shot. But Javon Evans doesn't look like he's going to get his chance to show that he deserves another shot. So it comes down to Trick Williams needs a mystery partner. And I guess all he had to do was say his name and he would appear. Because TNA's Joe Hendry once again returned to NXT and was the mystery partner for Trick Williams. We saw that closing at the NXT Heatwave. Right when the show went to black, we saw that turn of Joe Hendry. That quick 1 second clip. A little tease for us. I think we're going to see Joe Hendry quite a bit in NXT. The match was solid. You had Trick Williams, you had Joe Hendry. The crowd was all in on this match. They were all behind Joe Hendry. They even started chanting TNA. In a WWE event, they were chanting TNA, and it almost seems like WWE was encouraging it. Which, if you would have told me this 10 years ago, I would have said you were out of your mind. They would never let something like this happen. Got a gnat in here. Anyways, Joe Hendry and Trick Williams picking up the W, and that crowd was all for it. I hope we get to see a lot more of Joe Hendry. I think he's an incredible talent and charismatic superstar, and would love to see more of him in NXT, obviously. That brings us to the end of the NXT show, as well as all the shows. As you can tell, it might be a little shorter episode, considering I'm just by myself. I'm just kind of talking with you guys. WWE is on fire right now. I am loving every second of it. Even Money in the Bank, that wasn't necessarily maybe the greatest show of the year. I still enjoyed it. NXT Heatwave was awesome. Raw was awesome. NXT was awesome. I know SmackDown tonight is going to be awesome. They're killing every step of the way. They're killing it. And I can't wait to see what's next, what else comes about. It's going to be a fun time because it's been a fun ride. You already know. I don't really have a top 10 list or anything. The match reviews, I can give you my quick match reviews of them all. They were all Money in the Bank matches. The first one was the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match that the Rated R Superstar Edge won, which was awesome. Because you gotta love Edge. And this was really like a career-making moment for him. So many people say that the Money in the Bank makes careers, and they are not lying. I can give you the whole list of careers that have made. And another one that we'll go to, another example is like The Miz. I mean, when he won Money in the Bank and became WWE Champion, made his career. Another one of the matches was the Seth Rollins one where he won the Money in the Bank. I wanted to really showcase when I picked these matches that how it made their careers, how fun Money in the Bank matches are and how action-packed they can be. 2, how they've evolved from WrestleMania to now getting their own show. And 3, the impact that it can do for careers. Seth Rollins made his career. He won Money in the Bank, cashed it in at WrestleMania in the main event, and became WWE Champion, the heist of the century. Money in the Bank matches are always just so much fun. This last Money in the Bank last Saturday was a lot of fun. I mean, that women, and you see we've grown. I should have put a women's Money in the Bank match in anyways, but that was a good one. And it was really enjoyable, and I thought it just showed how much we've progressed in professional wrestling. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of all I got for this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. I know it wasn't too long. Let me know if you like the shorter episodes, if you prefer them shorter. We usually try to aim for about an hour. This one's about 40 minutes or so. Obviously, as always, you can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us to just about anywhere you listen to your podcast: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I think Amazon. I know I'm not really posting on social media. I'm kind of bad at that, but I want to get better. I'm going to try and get better at it. Because obviously I want to grow. I want to get more viewers, more fans. And I'd love to hear from you guys. Please comment and let me know what you guys think. We try and keep this positive. I don't really like putting too much negativity on things, so I try to keep things lit and positive, get things happy. Yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Have a great week whenever you're watching this. And, like Pat McAfee says, say something nice. It could change their life. Tell someone something nice. It could change their life. That's what it is. And those are true words. Be kind to each other. Be kind to yourself. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Ring Talk.